Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar OFFICAL, the channel where we bring you the most accurate, timely and carefully analysed updates on the Iraqi dinar, global currency movements and major financial developments that matter most to dinar holders around the world. If you are holding Iraqi dinar, following RV news, or watching closely for international banking signals, today's update is extremely important, because what we are seeing right now is not just another rumour cycle or recycled speculation, but a convergence of political, economic, banking, and international signals that many long-time observers have been waiting years to see align. Across Iraq, the Middle East, and major global financial centres, conversations are shifting, policies are being implemented quietly but firmly, and the groundwork that was laid over the last several years is now beginning to show measurable outcomes. Dinar holders should understand that currency reform is never a single announcement or one dramatic overnight event. Instead, it is a process that unfolds in stages, often hidden behind technical language, banking reforms, and international agreements long before the public ever hears the words revaluation or rate change. What we are witnessing today fits that exact historical pattern, and that is why this update carries such weight. Over the past few weeks, Iraqi officials have intensified their public messaging around economic stability, monetary reform, and integration with the global financial system, while at the same time quietly accelerating internal reforms that are essential prerequisites for any meaningful change in currency value. The Central Bank of Iraq has continued to emphasize exchange rate stability, inflation control, and banking sector modernization. But what stands out now is not just what they are saying, but what they are doing. Digital banking infrastructure is expanding at a faster pace, compliance with international anti-money laundering standards is being enforced more strictly, and cross-border settlement mechanisms are being refined to reduce dependency on cash-based transactions. These steps may sound technical or boring to casual observers, but seasoned dinar holders understand that these are the exact moves a country must make before it can support a stronger, internationally recognized currency. Iraq is not reforming its economy for speculation. It is reforming it to survive and compete in a rapidly evolving global financial landscape. One of the biggest signals attracting attention today is the growing cooperation between the Iraqi government, the Central Bank of Iraq, and international financial institutions. Over the last year, Iraq has worked closely with organizations such as the IMF, World Bank, and regional banking authorities to clean up legacy financial issues that date back decades. This includes resolving outstanding debts, improving transparency in public spending, and aligning fiscal policy with global standards. These efforts are not cosmetic. International institutions do not lend credibility lightly, and they certainly do not deepen cooperation with countries that are not serious about reform. The fact that Iraq continues to receive technical assistance and policy support indicates confidence in the direction of its reforms, and confidence is a crucial ingredient when discussing currency strength. No currency can gain value without trust, and trust is built slowly through consistent policy actions, not loud announcements. Another major development that dinar holders should not ignore is Iraq's rapidly expanding role in regional energy markets. Oil revenues remain a cornerstone of the Iraqi economy, but what is different now is the diversification strategy being implemented alongside energy production. Iraq is investing heavily in gas capture projects, electricity infrastructure, and cross-border energy partnerships that reduce waste and increase long-term revenue stability. Stable and predictable revenue streams are essential for currency reform because they allow central banks to manage reserves more effectively. When a country can project income reliably, it can support a more confident monetary policy, reduce reliance on emergency measures, and gradually strengthen its currency position. This is why energy reform and currency reform are always connected, even if they are discussed in separate headlines. At the same time, Iraq's internal political environment, while still complex, has shown signs of increased coordination around economic priorities. Political disagreements have not disappeared, but there is a noticeable shift toward protecting financial stability as a shared national interest. Budget approvals, public sector salary management, and social spending are being handled with more caution than in previous years, reflecting lessons learned from past economic shocks. For dinar holders, this matters because political chaos is one of the fastest ways to destroy currency value. Relative stability, even imperfect stability, creates the space needed for long-term reforms to take hold. The Iraqi leadership understands that public confidence in the dinar inside Iraq is just as important as international perception, and they are acting accordingly. Another point generating discussion among analysts is the ongoing effort to reduce dollar dominance in local Iraqi markets. For years, the US dollar has been heavily used in everyday transactions, creating pressure on the dinar and complicating monetary control. The Central Bank of Iraq has been working methodically to reverse this trend by promoting dinar usage, regulating foreign currency auctions, and tightening controls on dollar outflows. This process is gradual by design because sudden changes could destabilize markets, but progress is being made. Increased dinar usage strengthens demand, and demand is a fundamental driver of value. A currency that is trusted and widely used within its own country has a much stronger foundation for international recognition. International banking connections are also evolving in ways that deserve close attention. Iraqi banks are upgrading their systems to meet global compliance requirements, including Know Your Customer standards, transaction transparency, and electronic settlement capabilities. These upgrades are not cheap, and they are not required unless a country intends to integrate more deeply into the global banking system. The modernization of Iraq's banking sector signals preparation for increased international transactions, foreign investment flows, and potentially new exchange mechanisms. Countries do not modernize their banks to keep their currency isolated, they do it to connect, trade, and grow. For dinar holders, this modernization phase is one of the strongest non-verbal indicators that Iraq is positioning itself for a future where the dinar plays a larger role beyond domestic borders. Foreign investment interest in Iraq is another factor that continues to build quietly but steadily. Despite lingering security concerns in certain regions, major international companies are expanding operations in energy, construction, telecommunications, and agriculture. Investment does not flow into environments where currency risk is unmanaged or unpredictable. While investors may hedge risk in the short term, long-term projects require confidence in economic direction. The presence of foreign capital suggests that international players believe Iraq's financial framework is improving, even if challenges remain. This belief contributes indirectly to currency strength by increasing economic activity, employment, and capital inflows, all of which support a healthier monetary environment. Dinar holders should also pay attention to how Iraqi officials discuss the concept of currency reform. The language has become more precise and disciplined, avoiding speculative terms while emphasizing sustainability, balance, and gradual improvement. This is a deliberate strategy. Central banks do not signal major monetary moves loudly, because doing so can trigger speculation, volatility, and unintended consequences. Instead, they focus on building conditions that make reform inevitable rather than dramatic. This approach aligns with historical examples from other countries that successfully transitioned from weak or restricted currencies to stronger, more flexible systems. In nearly every case, the groundwork was laid years in advance, and the actual adjustment appeared anticlimactic to the public, even though it was monumental in effect. Globally, the financial environment also plays a role in how and when Iraq moves forward. Shifts in US monetary policy, global inflation trends, and geopolitical tensions all influence currency markets. Iraq must navigate these external pressures carefully to protect its own stability. What is notable now is that Iraqi policymakers appear increasingly confident in their ability to manage these challenges. Foreign reserves remain strong, and the central bank continues to emphasize prudent reserve management as a top priority. A well-managed reserve position provides flexibility and credibility, both of which are essential for any future changes to exchange mechanisms or valuation structures. Social factors inside Iraq also deserve mention. Public awareness of economic reform has increased, and there is greater scrutiny of government spending, corruption, and financial policy. While this creates pressure on leaders, it also encourages better governance. Citizens who trust their institutions are more likely to trust their currency, and internal trust is the foundation upon which external confidence is built. Iraq's efforts to combat corruption and improve transparency, though ongoing and imperfect, contribute to this broader picture of reform readiness. For dinar holders watching from outside Iraq, patience remains essential. Currency reform is not designed to reward speculation, and timelines are never guaranteed. However, it is equally important to recognize progress when it appears. The alignment of political will, institutional reform, international cooperation, banking modernization, and economic diversification does not happen by accident. These elements reinforce each other, creating momentum that is difficult to reverse once it reaches a certain point. Iraq appears closer to that point now than at any time in recent memory. As we analyze these developments together, remember that responsible reporting focuses on patterns, not hype. Iraqi Dinar OFFICAL exists to help you see the bigger picture, understand the signals that matter, and avoid emotional reactions to unverified claims. Today's update is significant not because of a single announcement, but because of the cumulative weight of actions being taken across multiple sectors. This is how real change happens in the financial world, quietly, methodically, and often long before headlines catch up. If you are holding Dinar, staying informed and grounded is your greatest advantage, and this channel will continue to bring you the insights you need as events unfold. As this broader picture continues to develop, it is important for Dinar holders to understand how timing, structure, and intent play critical roles in any potential currency adjustment. Many people new to the Iraqi Dinar space expect a sudden announcement or dramatic overnight change, but history shows that successful currency reform rarely unfolds that way. Instead, central banks focus on building resilience first, ensuring that when a change does occur, it can be sustained without triggering inflation, capital flight, or social unrest. Iraq's approach aligns with this model, emphasizing control, discipline, and readiness rather than spectacle. This is why much of the most meaningful progress is happening behind closed doors, through policy implementation, system upgrades, and international coordination rather than public declarations. One key aspect that continues to gain attention among financial observers is Iraq's increasing emphasis on trade settlement in local and regional currencies. This strategy reduces dependency on external currencies and strengthens the dinar's functional role in commerce. By encouraging regional partners to transact using structured mechanisms that include the dinar, Iraq gradually increases its relevance in cross-border trade. This does not immediately change the exchange rate, but it increases utility, and utility is one of the strongest long-term drivers of value. A currency that is actively used beyond its borders gains legitimacy, and legitimacy is what eventually supports valuation adjustments. Another factor worth considering is Iraq's demographic and economic potential. With a young population, vast natural resources, and strategic geographic positioning, Iraq has the fundamentals needed for long-term growth. The challenge has never been potential, but execution. What appears different now is a clearer understanding within Iraqi leadership that monetary stability is inseparable from national development. Infrastructure investment, private sector growth, and financial inclusion are being treated as interconnected goals rather than isolated initiatives. This integrated approach strengthens the overall reform framework and creates a more stable environment for the dinar. Technology is also playing an increasingly important role in Iraq's financial evolution. The expansion of electronic payment systems, mobile banking, and digital government services reduces reliance on cash and improves transaction tracking. These changes help combat corruption, improve tax collection, and enhance monetary control. For a central bank, better data means better decision-making. When monetary authorities can accurately assess money flow, demand, and velocity, they are better equipped to manage currency policy responsibly. These technical improvements may not excite speculators, but they are essential building blocks for any serious reform. International perception remains another critical element. Iraq's reputation in global markets has historically been shaped by conflict and instability, but that narrative is slowly changing. While challenges remain, Iraq is increasingly seen as a country in transition rather than perpetual crisis. This shift matters because currency value is influenced as much by perception as by numbers. When investors, institutions, and governments view a country as reform-oriented and forward-looking, they are more willing to engage economically. Engagement leads to investment, trade, and financial integration, all of which reinforce currency strength over time. For long-term dinar holders, managing expectations is crucial. There is a difference between hope grounded in evidence and optimism driven by speculation. Iraqi Dinar OFFICAL focuses on the former, highlighting structural progress rather than sensational claims. The evidence today suggests that Iraq is moving deliberately toward a more normalized monetary position within the global system. Whether that ultimately results in a significant revaluation, a gradual adjustment, or a managed transition to a different exchange framework will depend on conditions at the time decisions are made. What matters most is that Iraq is positioning itself to have options, and options mean leverage and stability. It is also important to acknowledge that external pressures can influence timing. Global economic uncertainty, regional conflicts, and shifts in major currencies all affect how and when Iraq may choose to act. Central banks operate within a global ecosystem, and decisions are rarely made in isolation. Iraq's leadership appears keenly aware of these dynamics, emphasizing caution and coordination over haste. This measured approach may frustrate those seeking immediate outcomes, but it increases the likelihood that any eventual change will be durable rather than temporary. Inside Iraq, efforts to strengthen the private sector are also contributing to a healthier economic environment. Encouraging entrepreneurship, supporting small and medium enterprises, and reducing bureaucratic barriers help diversify income sources beyond oil. Economic diversification reduces vulnerability to commodity price shocks, which in turn stabilizes government revenue and currency management. A diversified economy provides a stronger foundation for a resilient currency, making long-term reform more feasible. As we bring this update together, the central message for dinar holders is awareness without anxiety. Significant changes in the financial world are often preceded by long periods of quiet preparation. The signs worth watching are not dramatic headlines, but consistent policy actions, institutional strengthening, and international engagement. Iraq is demonstrating progress across all of these areas. While no one can responsibly promise timelines or outcomes, it is reasonable to recognize that the conditions necessary for meaningful currency reform are more aligned today than they have been in many years. Iraqi Dinar OFFICAL will continue to monitor developments closely, filtering out noise and focusing on substance. Our goal is not to fuel unrealistic expectations, but to provide clarity, context, and perspective so you can make informed decisions. The Iraqi dinar story is not about overnight riches. It is about a nation rebuilding its financial identity after decades of disruption. That process takes time, discipline, and patience, but it also creates opportunity for those who understand the journey rather than chase the hype. As always, stay informed, stay grounded, and stay connected with Iraqi Dinar OFFICAL for continued updates as this story evolves. The path forward is unfolding step by step, and every reform, every policy adjustment, and every international partnership adds another piece to the larger puzzle. For dinar holders who have waited through uncertainty, today's environment offers something valuable: direction. And in the world of currency reform, direction is often the clearest signal of what lies ahead.